Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Fullerton here. I'm going to read chapters 13 and 14 of our awesome book, Fish in a Tree. Chapter 13 is titled Trouble with Flowers, and it starts on page 70 if you want to follow along. It's the night of the holiday concert when we sing about Santa and dreidels and Kwanzaa. The best part is getting a new dress. I stand in front of a mirror looking at my dress and my first shoes with a heel on them. Thinking about the shopping day I had with my mom. We even went to A.C. Peterson's for lunch. I liked how she stayed with me in a booth instead of having to go wait on other people. I love to sing, but I don't like our music teacher, Mrs. Muldoon. Max calls her Minefield Muldoon because you can never tell when she'll blow up over something. Oliver calls her that too, but he acts it out by leaping into the air and yelling, Muldoon! As he lands on the floor and rolls. He doesn't stop though. He goes from a roll right to his feet again, like a cat in a cartoon. Shay is making fun of Albert because his clothes don't fit. What's with the pants, Albert, she says. Did you get that outfit in 3rd grade? Keisha whips around fast. Why do you always try to pull people down, she asks. Because some people deserve it, that's why, Shay answers. Deserve to be pulled down? Really? Keisha asks. Albert straightens his tie, which is the only part of his outfit that fits. He's even wearing his sneakers with the backs cut out. You know, he says, logically, if a person was to pull another down, it would mean that he or she is already below that person. Keisha lets out a laugh so loud that Mrs. Muldoon shoots her a look. Keisha covers her mouth and tries to squelch the sound. That is perfect, Albert. Man, you really are a smart dude. She turns to Shay. You, on the other hand, are so low you could play tennis against a curb. Shay's eyes narrow, but before she can say anything, Mrs. Muldoon appears and tells us to line up. For the spring concert last year, before I had a growth spurt, I had to stand in the front row. I liked when Travis called me a dime among pennies, but this year, I get to stand toward the back of the line with the taller kids, right next to Keisha. I look over at her. I love how she stuck up for Albert. She had the guts that I didn't in the cafeteria. I wish I could be braver. We all stand, waiting to file into the auditorium. Oh, Mrs. Muldoon, I love your dress, Shay says. Mrs. Muldoon lights up like a bulb. Why, thank you, Shay. Your parents have raised such a nice young lady. Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Muldoon, Shay smiles. But when she turns away towards Jessica, she rolls her eyes, and she keeps glaring at Keisha. I decide I won't think about how mad she makes me, and I'll think instead about how all the girls get to carry a bouquet of flowers. That's the good news. The bad news is that they have been donated by Jessica's father, the florist. It's nice of him, but Jessica hasn't stopped bragging about it. Mrs. Muldoon walks down the line, handing out the most beautiful bouquets I have ever seen, like the ones that brides carry. Dark red ribbons that wind around the stems like a barbershop light pole. Ribbons dangle from the bottom, too. She hands my bunch to me and I smile, thinking of how much my mom will love to see me with them. Keisha leans in to smell them and runs her fingers over the tips of the flowers. Then one of the white buds falls off and bounces off the top of her shiny black shoe. Mrs. Muldoon is there in a second. What do you think you're doing? Mrs. Muldoon grabs the flowers from Keisha's hands. Keisha looks up. No, please don't. I didn't mean. These flowers are a gift. And if that's how you're going to treat a gift with complete lack of respect and gratitude, then you, Keisha Almond, will be the only girl without flowers. But Mrs. Muldoon, Keisha says, I really didn't. Mrs. Muldoon holds up her hand like she's stopping traffic. I don't want to hear it. You will have no flowers, and perhaps you will remember in the future how a lady behaves. See, Shay says to Jessica, people do get what they deserve. I stand behind Keisha, but I wish I could see her face. I wait for her to say something back, but Keisha doesn't say anything. Although I can't see her cry, I hear her sniff and see her brush her cheek with her fingertips. And I watch a mind move me, and me being the only girl without flowers, marching in to see all the parents, and the look on my mom's face, how she'd be the only sad parent in a sea of smiling ones, and how I'd feel like I was less than everyone else. No one should ever feel like that. I feel my fingertips dig into the center of my bouquet to separate the thick stems. It takes some twisting to work half the flowers out of the fancy ribbon, but I put some muscle into it. Stems crack and leaves and petals fall spinning in the air, landing all around my shiny new shoes. Mrs. Muldoon has turned around to stare. Her mouth is open wide enough for a bird to build a nest in. I hold her gaze as I hand half the flowers to Keisha. Well, she can have some of mine then. In the end, neither of us had flowers when we walked into the auditorium, but we had bigger smiles than anyone else. That was really nice of Allie to be a good friend to Keisha. And now we're on chapter 14, Boxed In and Boxed Out. Okay, my Fantasticos, as you know, today is Fantastico Friday, and we are going to end our day with a challenge. I'm going to break you up into groups. Each group will be given a shoebox wrapped in elastic bands, which you will not remove, with a mystery object inside. Your job is to guess what the mystery object is. You can do anything to the box to figure it out except open it. There are 4 numbered boxes that will rotate from group to group. You have 10 minutes with each box, so be sure that you write down your guesses. At the end, we'll open them up to see what each object is. He claps once loudly. Any questions? Everyone looks excited. Most glance around the room, probably hoping they'll be with Albert. He'll get every answer right. But I end up in a group with Max, Suki, Oliver, and Jessica. I briefly consider going to the nurse, especially when I have to stare at all of Jessica's friendship bracelets. I wonder if each bracelet is from a different friend. I glance down at my empty wrist. Box number 1 is dropped on our table. Oliver grabs it and shakes it hard. Jessica folds her arms and rolls her eyes, her response to anything not done or said by Shay. I look across the room. Shay is in a group with Albert. She's holding the box and talking. What a surprise. Yeah, Max says, taking the box from Oliver. My turn. I'm surprised when Suki speaks up first. Oliver, we all need a turn, so we must plan. 10 minutes and 5 of us, 2 minutes each. I think about the nurse again. I could lie on that comfortable bed and think. I've come up with some of my best sketchbook ideas, pretending to be sick down there. Max has been shaking the box. He throws it into the air once and catches it. Whatever's inside is heavy, he says. Oliver says, maybe it's a kangaroo. Jessica looks at him in disgust. Oliver shrinks. I was just kidding, he mumbles. This makes me mad. Max hands it to Jessica, who gives it a little shake and says, I think it's a wooden block, like maybe one of those alphabet blocks. When will it be my turn again? Oliver asks. Suki is taking some kind of notes or something. Looking up at the clock, she says, Oliver, you have 25 seconds of your time left only. Oliver takes the box back and sniffs it and tries to hear something by pressing his ear to the top. Mr. Daniels calls from the other side of the room. I love that, Oliver. Creative investigation. While I wait for my turn, I wonder why Oliver always smells like graham crackers. Finally, I get the box and put it up to my ear and tilt it. Whatever is inside rolls rather than slides. It must be round. And Max is right about it being heavy. I tilt it again with my palm on the side of the box. I think it's a baseball, I said, handing it to Jessica. She does the same test and surprises me by saying, I agree. Feels like a baseball. Wait, I said, taking it back. I tilt it again quickly and the object hits the end hard and then lightly. It bounces, I said. Would a baseball bounce? I asked, turning to Max. Nah, I don't think so. Maybe it's rubber, like a lacrosse ball. After Suki tests the box, she writes down her answer. Then we get the second box. The second item slides rather than rolls. I can tell because it doesn't move if the box is tilted a little, but once tilted more, will move all at once. And I can feel it scraping along the bottom. It's weird, but I can almost see it. It's heavier than an alphabet block, but I think it is a shape with all flat sides. Oliver tells me that it's cool I'm so good at this. I forget to say thank you because I'm shocked. But then I also forget to be nervous talking to everyone and feeling like I can do this as well as everyone else. And it's the best feeling ever. Suki hands the box to me. Your turn to go first. The third box is harder, but I guess it's in the shape of a magic marker, but much bigger and heavier as it slides one way and rolls the other. I glance over at Albert, who is listening to Shay talk again. Keisha is doing the talking in her group, but she is making everyone laugh. I wish I knew what they were saying. When Mr. When Mr. Daniels delivers the fourth box, he stays. While Max tries to figure out what's inside, Jessica constantly compliments him on everything short of breathing. Max tells us that he thinks it's something light because it doesn't hit the sides hard. When it is his turn, Oliver looks up at Mr. Daniels. So, what do you think is in there, Oliver? I can see Oliver wants to be right. He tilts and shakes and decides if it's a quarter. Mr. Daniels nods and pats him on the back. That's an excellent guess, Oliver. Well done. Am I right? Oliver asks. You'll have to wait and see, Mr. Daniels shrugs. Can't you just tell me now? Sorry, bud. Oliver seems disappointed. Then he looks up at me. Holding out the box, he says, Here, Allie, you're the best at this. Jessica's face looks like if she let out all that pressure, she'd fly into the air like a rocket to the moon. Allie? Mr. Daniels asks. Huh? Sorry. Sometimes when I think I forget to talk. He laughs a little. I hold the box in front of me with the long side almost touching my stomach. I tilt the box front to back and then side to side. This doesn't make sense. What are you thinking, Allie? He asks. Well, I began. If I tilt it front to back, the object hits the long sides of the shoebox. But if I tilt it side to side, the object doesn't hit the short sides. In my mind, I see the object must be the size and shape of a magic wand. because it moves a lot when tilted in one direction, but not when tilted in the other. What? Oliver asks. It doesn't make sense, I say. I look down at the box and shake it side to side hard. I can't get the object to hit the sides of the box. The more I shake side to side, the more it hits the top and the bottom of the box. Confusing. I look up at Mr. Daniels and his half smile with scrunched eyebrows. Wait a second, I said. Would you trick us? What do you mean, trick you? I shake it again. Tilt it some more. The object has some sides, but not all sides. Did you tape it or tie it or something? His eyes widen quick and he smiles. And then he laughs. He laughs loud, bending over and resting his hands on his knees. Then he swings his head to the side to look over at me. By this time, the whole class is watching him. Wow, Allie Nickerson, that's amazing. I have done this with over 100 kids, and no one in all those times has ever been able to figure that out. He reaches out and takes the box. Taking the elastic bands off, he opens the box to show us all what's inside. It's 2 glue sticks tied together with string, and then the ends of the string are taped to the sides of the box, leaving the glue sticks hanging in the middle. Clever. He comes over and does something a teacher has never done even once in my whole life. He high-fives me. And I wonder how that made Allie feel, that she was the only one in over 100 kids who ever figured that out. I would think it made her feel pretty special. What do you think? Happy reading, friends!